How's it going, my friends? Well, today's the day. I just got in the universal chassis for our Die Hard, so we're going to try one of these out. I kind of seen some mixed reviews on them, but I have two of these. I have two of these Wells Gardner U2000s that need chassis. Both of them. This one has a bad burnt spot on it, not just charring, but it's burnt. And on Big Buck Hunter that I have, or Buck Hunting USA, whatever it is, it's in storage. I spent a couple of days trying to work through that chassis to get that one to give me some kind of life, and that one I could not get it to do anything. I mean, it's in the power somewhere. Half of the board has power, the other half doesn't, and I was fed up with it. I put it all back together, took it over, and stuck it in storage. It pissed me off. But we'll get back to it if these universal chassis work out like I want to. These, you can do an LCD on them, but on this cabinet, it's bad enough that you have to work through this little hole through the chassis. If you want to do an LCD conversion on this, you have to split this cabinet. You have to take all this, you have to take the topper off of it, and you have to split this cabinet apart so you can get at the mountings and everything to do something with it. You can't just come through the front. You have to split it. This bezel piece would come off, but you still can't get in the back side. You have to, Nightmare City. So I'm not going that route. Yeah, wout. Sound like Wugs Wunny. And the Buck Hunter I have, just from what I know and trying different things, you cannot put an LCD in Buck Hunter because you have to have a CRT in it for the gun, the light gun. It should be exactly like our NES's. That the light gun on an NES will not work on an LCD TV. It has to be on a CRT for the light to be able to reflect and work. So I'm sure on the Buck Hunter it's the same thing. I'm sure those guns are pretty much the same as a light gun like on an NES. So you have to have a CRT in it. So that's another one that I have to find a chassis to put in it. And why go with a used chassis if the universal chassis will work? These are, I paid $105 for this. So, it's not like I have a ton of money in it. It's not like I had to spend, $300-400 for a chassis. $100, I know $100 is $100. That's still a lot of money. But if it works, it's well worth the $100. So hopefully this is going to work out for us. Now, everything on this chassis, I'm not sure if it's one of those wee-wah or wee-haw or woo-woo or hoo-ha or not. There's nothing on this. The box just says video game chassis suitable for, there's no name or nothing like that. So it may be one of those clones, but it's still coming out of China, so I'm sure it probably comes out of the same place or whatever. Anyway, so everything's in Chinese on this, so it's you gotta try and figure things out. These three knobs here, adjustments, are darker than the rest. So I'm going to say this is our red, green, and blue, or blue, green, red, whatever, on there. And then the hold red, green, blue is up on our neck board. And, you know, they're set up basically the same way. You have one transistor for each color and one resistor for each color. You know, the same as our regular chassis, so we know that's red, green, blue up there, and I'm positive that red, green, blue down below. It might be back-asswards, it might be blue, red, green, whatever. And then we have another one here that's really different colored, so that might be our focus. And from what I understand, there's no contrast on these. There's no contrast adjustment. So it's all in working with your red, green, blue and your brightness. And this is our pin whatever. Anyway, this is the one, this little pot down inside there is what adjusts the screen to kind of wrap around your CRT in the corners. So you don't just have a square and then it deforms in the corners. This will actually, you can adjust that and you can kind of make it conform to the screen. Because on an LCD, you know, it's just square. So that's how these are kind of set up, I guess, for an LCD or whatever. I don't know. That's a little too much information for me to absorb. But I do know we're going to try this out. Now you get the chassis and then you get this little bundle of fun stuff here. This should be our ground for our neck board. This is the red, green, blue, or whatever, going up to our gun on our picture tube. And this should be our feed coming in from our board. And then they have a ground in here in case yours around your monitor is dookie. You can change the ground that goes all the way around the monitor. We won't need that because ours is good, as far as I know. I can't get my head in that little hole to look up in there. And there's some other things that you have to make sure of to make sure this chassis is going to work for you. You have your vertical and your horizontal, and your picture tube, your gun readings, your ohm readings have to be in a certain area in order for them to work. I think the horizontal is 3.8 to 6, and the vertical is 1.5 to 2.5. You have to measure that to make sure you're in that range for this chassis to work for it. It might be vice versa, the horizontal and the vertical, so don't quote me on that, you know, if you feel that, but you can measure them. If you measure them and you're within those specs, it doesn't matter if you're on the, if you think it's the vertical but it's a horizontal and it's 3.8, you know, to 6, you know, you get the gist of it. It's not rocket science, but you should measure to make sure that it's going to work for your tube. Some of those tubes this chassis will not work for. You have to do some modifications. I think you have to put some resistors in the horizontal side of it or whatever to bring something, to bring it down so it'll work, or up, whatever. And you have to have a little bit of knowledge on your plugs so you can wire these up. The plugs are different from your tube to this chassis, so you may have to use these plugs. This one might be the same on ours, but I'll check it out, and may have to change that plug out and put that plug on it. This one I know is different because we have the straight pin here, and on the U2000 chassis it has one of those, it's right there in the corner. I don't know if my camera will brighten up. Anyway, it has one of those lock headers on it, so you have to, that I know we do have to change. Where'd it go? There it is. We do have to change this plug out here. This cabinet does not have a isolation transformer. Some of these you can, but I don't recommend just plugging those in or hooking your 120 to it. I've seen a lot of people that are saying that you have to have an isolation transformer with this, which is no big deal. We have one that I took out of Time Soldiers when I converted that over to LCD, because that had a one of them Matschitza monitors in it, and I screwed with it. And if you watch that series, we had a nice little light show going on the back side of that chassis. So that one went to the wayside, and I put an LCD in it, so we had an extra. We do have an extra isolation transformer that we can put in and isolate the monitor, which should be done anyway from your power supply, because that way if there is any problems with the chassis, it'll go down, pop the fuse on the isolation transformer, and protect your board set and everything else in your power supply. And the isolation transformer usually gives you a better steady power source than your power supply. So by all means, to use this, put an isolation transformer in if you don't have one. Most of the CRTs do. That's why I was kind of surprised that this one doesn't. I don't know. I don't think it ever did, but it's going to have one now, so we can use this chassis. So it's going to be interesting. This will be a nice little project. Maybe, hopefully we can get that chassis to work like we want it to, and bring this Die Hard back. The board set, and if you watched the previous episode, you know the board set works. You know, I had it set up on a little LCD, and our board set was running. So we know it's good as far as picture-wise go. We didn't have any volume, but, you know, that's okay, because then we can work on the volume and get our sound back on this. Unless I just didn't have it hooked up when I was pissing around with the LCD. But even when the board set was running blind, there was no volume, no sound. So that'll be something else we will be working on later in another episode. In this episode, all we're going to do is we're going to convert this from that Dookie U2000 chassis to our universal chassis, so we can get it fired up. And I know it's going to take us a lot of screwing around to get this thing adjusted. From what I've been looking and reading and watching, you have to do a lot of adjusting and screwing around to get this chassis to actually work properly on your CRT. So we'll go through all that as we move along through this episode. So the first thing we have to do is get that pile of crap out of there, so we can start looking at our plugs and everything and see what we have to do to kind of swap things over. And we have to get our isolation transformer in it. So let's get started on converting this over to a universal chassis. Now, I called it the gun, but it's actually the yoke that we're measuring our resistance on. I got the old chassis out. Right now, I have it on our horizontal. And you can see our horizontal is jumping between 1.5 and 1.4. And 1.3 is the minimum. So we're right there within range on our horizontal. And now we'll check our vertical. Don't mind me, I'll swap these around. You can see now I have it in our vertical. And I kind of misspoken. It should be 6 ohm to 12 ohm. And you can see we're a little low on our vertical side. but I have seen them work before, at least in videos of them being a little low. This is gonna, and my meter's not the greatest, so it could be right around there. It's 6 to 12 ohms, and we're at 4.7, 4.6, 4.7 ohm. But we're gonna try it anyway. You know, if we burn up a chassis, we burn up a universal chassis. But we're gonna try it out anyway and see what happens. Hopefully we're okay. So now what I have to do is get some wiring all put together so we can get that universal in there and get it hooked up and try it and see if anything happens. Okay, I just wanted to show you what happened here. I put it on 2K, and but if I drop it back down, my meter, like I said, is not the greatest. It kind of fluctuates up to 6 and back down to around 5. So I'm pretty sure we're going to be okay here. You know, we're going to try it anyway. What's the worst that can happen? Okay, I got everything all wired up and ready to be put together. On your signal coming from your board, you can see that the color codes don't match up on it, but these are all self-explanatory here, that you have the red, green, and blue, and 2 grounds. Well, one's a shield, they call it an S, and the other one's an E, which E, have no clue. But this plug only goes on one way. You can see that the one plug stands out further than the other. And on our board, it's the same way, so you can write these down. You have R, G, B, E, and S. Like I said, I'm not sure what the E stands for. So if you take your old plug, here's the plug I cut off. You have red, green, blue, and the 2, giving you your 5 wires. And it's wired up exactly the same on here, on there. So you don't get messed up. You can write them down off of the board. Right here you have red, green, blue, the E, and the S. The red is the pink. The green is the orange. And the blue is your purple. You can see you can wire it up the exact same, but you need to know what colors go up. Well, you don't need to, but it's helpful in case you kind of second guess yourself. And your vertical and your horizon, vertical and vertical and horizontal. God dang it. Sorry about that. Same thing. Your blues go together and your whites go together. Which your green and white is your horizontal. Got it right that time. And the blue and the gray is your vertical. Same thing on your board. If you look down on here, you have HHVV, vertical and horizontal. You can wire them up just by looking at your board, because there is no manuals or anything with this, no instructions. You just gotta kind of wing it, I guess. Okay, anyway, enough of that fun stuff. Got the isolation transformer ready. This will plug into our chassis. That's the cord that came right off of the chassis with the plug on it. And we'll plug this right into our, you can either plug it into an outlet, or see, my power supply has a 120 circuit or plug on it. So we can do that. We can get that plugged in. I should have a ground on it. I may do that then. I know somebody's going to say, you should be grounding that. And I'll get a 3-prong. And I think my gray here is my ground. Yeah, it goes down to the transformer, the gray. So let's see, probably before I even hear it from anybody, I'll go ahead and put that on there. I forgot and didn't even notice that I didn't do that. But the chassis doesn't call for a ground. This is what you use for your chassis. So we're gonna just use it the way it is and see what happens. I don't have real high expectations or optimism for this, but you know, hey, we're gonna try it. This is our ground coming off of our tube for our neck board, and we're ready to slide that in there and get everything all hooked up and get it turned on, and I'll get everything all hooked up down here, and we can turn it on and see what the hell happens. So let me get everything all wired, or it's all wired up. Let me get everything hooked up, put in, and ready to turn on. Okay, I got everything all hooked up. Got the chassis kind of setting in there. That chassis is just a little bit too big. The heat sink in the back hits the tube before it kind of sits down in there, but I do have it in there. Looks like if you ever messed with one of these with just a small hole in them, it is such a pain in the butt to get that anode up on there. And you can see our red, green, and blue is up top. So you have to stick your arm up in there to adjust it. This one, there is no remote adjustment panel for this. There's one in the machine, but it was for that old chassis over there, and there's no place to plug one in on that. Okay. Anyway, plugged into the wall. Got our isolation transformer plugged in, and everything's all hooked up, and now we're ready to turn it on, and hopefully we don't have to run for the door. So let's turn it on. I don't have my board set hooked up. I want to see if we get any activity out of the monitor first and that chassis before I plug in my board set. Just precaution. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so far so good. We got a little green LED lit. So the board's getting power. That was just me. My stool took off on me. You can look through the sight here at the end of the board. We have neck glow. Shouldn't have anything going on yet. But we do know that the monitor's powered up. Board set's working. Well, it's on anyway. It's got power to it and it's working. We have neck glow, so we got some high voltage. When I first turned it on, I heard the chatter. I don't know if you could hear it over my heater running. So now what I'm going to do is, since I don't see anything smoking and look pretty good so far, I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. Turn my power supply off. I'll let that power down a little bit. And then we'll plug in the board set. And power it up again. And see if we get an image. And see how bad we have to adjust, or try to adjust. Okay. And then our board set's plugged in. Now we can go ahead and turn it back on. Yeah. I heard the chatter. Everything's looking good. Yeah, that glow. I don't see or smell anything unusual. If I do, it's probably me. Okay. And we got a little bit of something going on. You can see we have some color and some flickering in there. You didn't think it was going to be that easy, did you? Or you just hook it up, plug it in, turn it on, start playing. Not going to be that easy. Yeah, looks like we lost everything. Still good there. Still nothing going on. Okay. Let's see if we can, if this has a test, screen test or something going on. Put it there. Let's see, this is service. Okay. We can't do anything just yet then. Let me play around, do some work on the settings and some adjustments, and let me see if I can get this to at least bring us up a picture that we can bring the service up, and see if we can get a test pattern for our monitor, and then we can do more adjusting. Right now I just got to see if I can get some of this cleared up so we can see what the hell's going on. Okay, I just want to give you an update as to where I'm at. I got it stabilized. It was the vertical, and it was really dark, so I had to brighten it up. It still needs brightened up a little bit, and the screen was inverted. We had everything was upside down. To invert that, your plug right back there, the gray one. I had mine on the front set of pins, and that had it inverted upside down. So I moved it to the front ones, and that flipped her back over where it belongs. We gotta, I still got some adjusting to do. It's a little, like I said, it's a little dark right now for me. Anyway, I like it just a little bit lighter. We'll get that lightened up. I need to move the screen one way or the other and get that squared away, because we're kind of all off to that side. And our colors actually aren't too bad. I think if I brighten it up, our colors might be pretty satisfactory. But I wanted to give you an update as to where I was. I did get this, like I said, I got it stabilized. It was the vertical that was holding it rolling, and I thought it was rolling up and down, but I got to looking at it, and it was kind of like corner to corner. So I had the horizontal, and I couldn't, it wouldn't do nothing for me. So I tried the vertical hold and started adjusting it, and lo and behold, it straightened out itself. And I got that set where it's stable now. I think our screen might be a little too big. I might need to shrink it in a little bit, and like I said, I need to move it over and brighten it up. But our colors, actually our red, blue, and our green really look pretty good. I think on our test, let's see here, we want CRT test. Oop, wrong one. Okay. Test. There's our CRT. You can see we need to bring it over, but our color looks really good, and our grid looks good too. I just need to, looks like I need to bring it in a little bit because we're kind of down here, and I think we're up. I think it's too big this way, which would be vertical, and we need to pull this over horizontal and open it up, I think, a little bit. So I'll screw around with this and see how much more I can get out of this, and we're going to call it good. And I wanted to kind of give you an update too. After it had been on for a little while, I started smelling something pretty funky, and it's that big 25 watt resistor. It gets really hot, and it kind of cooks whatever is on it off. But the more I let it run, that resistor has started to cool off a little bit. It's not quite as hot as it was at first. But it may have been because it was trying to do too much to this monitor because everything was all screwed up. Not sure what that big 25 watt resistor does. But I'm sure somebody out there knows what the hell it does. But let's do some more adjusting on this and see if we can't get this to straighten out for us a little bit more and get it a little bit better. So far, I'm kind of happy. I'll be happier once it's all adjusted out and to whatever the best that we can get it. Right now, it's kind of hard for me to adjust it alone because with the buttons all the way on the inside, I can't look at the screen and adjust at the same time. I have to adjust a little bit and then go look, adjust a little bit and then go look. So it's kind of back and forth, back and forth. But it's not too bad. When they're in the cabinets like this, especially this type of cabinet, you just can't do squat, even on a regular cabinet. If you don't have the remote panel, which everything isn't on the remote panel that's on the chassis itself. But let me get to playing around with it some more and see if I can't get us just a little bit better. Another thing I forgot to mention is all those adjustments are not marked at all. In Chinese, yeah. But I see other people that theirs is marked in English under the knob, under the adjustment. But no, there is absolutely nothing on this one except in Chinese. I do know this is red, green, and blue, and this is our brightness. The rest of them I'm going to keep to myself and let everybody else try and figure them out like I did. But, alright, now I'm going to play around with it. I got her pretty much adjusted. I think I still need to do a little bit more. I think I need to turn my blue down just a little bit. I got a little bit of a kind of a blue haze here in the white. You can kind of see it. The red's good and the green is good. But I think my blue's up just a little too high. I see a lot of blue in our white. But I'll get that squared away. That's just a little bit of adjustments. Okay. So I'm pleased with it. I think Winners don't use drugs. I think it turned out pretty good. I do want to mention, though, that these chassis, these universal chassis, do not have a degaussing coil on them, or circuit on them to degauss your screen. So you know, I don't have a degaussing wand. I never really had a use for one until now. But I do see a little bit of a purple up here in the corner, and along this edge it could use to be degaussed. And I think my position needs to be squished over just a little bit more too. But I can get that adjusted, that's no big deal. I did play, it is working. Just we don't have sound, and that'll be in a separate episode. And now what I have left to do is to get all this crap mounted inside the cabinet. And I gotta hook up our marquee light, because using a isolation transformer, I don't have the lights, the marquee light hooked up. It's on the other plug, but I can hook up our marquee right off of our power supply with that plug. I can get that all squared away so we can get our marquee lit back up. Okay. Let's see. What else do I need to... Okay. For those of you that really want to know, your vertical positioning is on the end, your vertical hold is next, and then your horizontal positioning, vertical hold, and then you have your screen sizes are in these three here too, and there's something else in there. I didn't really see what the hell that one did do. And then you have your bright, and then you have your red, green, blue. But it's kind of a pain in the butt. The hardest part about this was getting it adjusted, because without any of those marked, and I don't have a mirror set up, so I have to turn one a little bit and then go around and see what the hell's going on, and then turn it a little bit more until I find what I'm looking for. But the color, I'm kind of impressed with this. Yeah, you can see we're kind of over that way a little too far, but I can get that adjusted out, hopefully. Some of those adjustments I have turned all the way to one side to get it to even position remotely close to where we need it. So I don't know, some of this I may not be able to get some of this out over. I mean, I'll see. I can shrink our screen down a little bit and move it over a little, but as it is now, I like the color. Color is really nice on this monitor. And that chassis, that was a 2021 chassis, so they have done some improvements on it. The older universal chassis had the English version setting underneath the knob, you know, set all the way back there by the pins. Well, this one has doodly squat on it, so that's why it was kind of a trial and error, test and see, which is okay. I mean, I learned where the positions are, and of course I will forget, so I will write them down on a piece of paper and put it with the manuals, and put it in here with the manuals, so when I throw that back in the cabinet or put it in the filing cabinet, I'll always have it and know if I need to adjust it. I can look at my little cheat sheet and get her figured out again. But yeah, now, like I said, I just got to get everything mounted down inside the cabinet and hook up our marquee. I think the light bulbs burn out in the marquee anyway, but I'll get it hooked up. Everything else seems to be working except for our volume. Like I said, we'll do that in a separate video and see if we can't get our volume, our sound to work. But yeah, I'm pleasantly pleased with it. Now I can order another one for my Buck Hunt USA, or Buck Hunter, or whatever it is, over there in storage. And we can get that back over here and get it finished up so it's ready. Okay, so that's it for this video. That's it for this video, this episode. At least we got our monitor up and running. We did a conversion of our old Wells Gardner U2000 chassis to a universal chassis. So I hope you enjoyed this. And I hope you learned something. I know I sure did. So until next time, I'll see you in the next episode. See ya.